Hey everyone, this is Khara Brindle. Welcome to another video on all things financial therapy. So this week I was inspired by our Momentum and Money group to talk about we've established budgets are bad and spending plans are good. But there was a question about these horrible, unexpected, or just stressful periodic expenses. So everything from an emergency that we couldn't have foreseen happening to a forgotten expense that happens every 6 months or once a year annually. So, what are some examples of a periodic expense? Everything from a vet bill to your Amazon Prime membership happening once a year where you're like, oh, forgot about that. On the professional side, it might be something related to your small business, whether it's insurance that you have to renew, licensure that you have to pursue and renew, things like that. So, usually it's a chunk of money, everything from $100 to several $100s. And so that causes some stress to folks when they're thinking about periodic expenses because they forgot about it and now it's due. And so, as one of our group members mentioned, it can feel like you're just kind of scrounging together money, which doesn't feel very good. So, here are two strategies. When pondering periodic expenses, strategy one would be to go through, let's say, a year's worth of bank statements and highlight what are periodic expenses, because the whole point is that we don't remember what they are. So, if we can highlight and pinpoint when they are, not only will this help us with what the amount is roughly, it might also tell us what months have periodic expenses so we can start to kind of plan for those months, or maybe there's just more money going out in those months. So going through 12 months of bank statements to say, what are my periodic expenses for a snapshot of a year? From there, the strategy is you take the number that you see on those statements or a round number. You're like, okay, it's $144, divide that by 12 and factor that into your monthly spending plan to say, I need to have this money set aside for that purpose, or at least have it allocated, thought of, represented in some way. Typically, when I have this conversation with folks in financial therapy, I hear the word overwhelm. Well, that feels overwhelming because it's quite a few steps. It's getting into the weeds with the numbers and it's breaking it down by 12 months. So doing some division to say, what is that little chunk of money each month to make sure we have it set aside for when it's actually due. The second strategy that works well for folks who feel that overwhelm for strategy one, strategy two is to say, you know what, I just want to have an account that's called periodic expenses, or make a case it's called cushion, because I like that word better, for anything that's unforeseen. And so maybe you're putting $10, $20, $25 a week or a month into that account. So it's like, that's what it's there for. So in case something pops up on your radar that you forgot about, it's there. So instead of having to go into the weeds of all the numbers of what the periodic expenses are and what their amounts are divided by 12, which was strategy one, strategy two is just having a bucket to have and house money for those periodic expenses as they come up. So if you all of a sudden see that $144 charge, now you're moving money over from your periodic expense bucket or cushion or whatever label you decide to call it, move it into the account. So it's basically saying it's paid for, it's allotted, I planned for it, and therefore it's proactive rather than reactive. So those are just two strategies to addressing periodic expenses. As a small business owner, I can tell you that this causes the most stress because it's not something we're anticipating or have on our radar week to week or month to month. And so whether it's a small chunk of money or several $100s worth of money, can make all the difference in your plans as a small business owner or in your personal affairs and your personal life. So strategy one, take those numbers, 12 months divided by 12. Strategy two, have a bucket called periodic expenses or some other clever name that you like and have money being funneled into that account, whether you automate it or you do it once a month. Put a little chunk of money in there, could be $10, $25, whatever amount feels right to you, to have in that account for the purpose of if a periodic expense comes up, I am prepared. And I can assure you, it brings anxiety down just a little bit to have one of these strategies at your disposal. Join me in other videos for other tools and tips and tricks in financial therapy. See you next time.